Dan Redinger put out the sign clearly on his marquee saying Muslims, don't want you in here. Now, let's assume that the great majority of Muslims aren't out to stab you to death or do whatever or cause carnage. Let's assume that that is the case. Right? I can tell you from personal experience, especially in Texas, there isn't a lot of Muslims, except in little pockets here and there. So a lot of times you don't come across them, but sometimes when you do come across them, I've come across them a couple times, you get a bad impression, if I'm being very honest with you. And especially in Texas, and I want to explain this real quick. Especially in Texas, you can say whatever you want about people from Texas, but most of the times when we pass you on the street or something, we're going to acknowledge you and say hi. Now, this is kind of drifting away from our culture a little bit when it comes to cell phones and all the distractions people have, but for the most part, people are going to say hi to you. They're going to say howdy or something like that. How are you doing? Something like that. They're going to acknowledge you. And even from my personal experience, I can tell you this, when it comes to Muslim ladies, and sometimes men, when it comes to Muslim ladies, they'll be dressed up in all that garb and stuff, all with the hijab or whatever, and sometimes not the whole hijab, but like just the scarf, and you'll see them, you say howdy, just like you say howdy to anybody. You say howdy to them, and my experience is they won't say nothing back to you, they won't even acknowledge that you're there. They'll walk right past you, or maybe they'll look at you and smile maybe, or not smile, usually not smile, look right past you and walk by. And so people from my culture would definitely feel a little bit disrespected, whether or not they wanted to. And I can imagine in Lonsdale, when you're talking about Lonsdale, Minnesota, it's a small town, I can imagine it would be the same way. And so what I'm trying to explain is that people in Lonsdale obviously don't think that every Muslim person is going to murder them and stab them up. But, however, they might have the experience of feeling uneasy around Muslim folks who have a culture that's just quite different from our culture. And so you can begin to see the logic that takes place in this simple man. I mean, he doesn't purport himself to be a genius. But you can see the logic in that. Maybe, Muslim people, because there are starting to be more and more Muslim people in and around Minnesota, maybe Muslim people have just, made a bad first impression. And maybe some people feel very uneasy around them regardless of whether or not they're going to get stabbed or not. And as it turns out, Dan Redinger, the owner of Treats Restaurant, was exactly right, because his business been booming lately. Absolutely booming. He's had to bring in extra employees and stuff like that. I mean, his phone's ringing off the hook. I mean, people are coming in and getting that food, baby. Not just because they're hungry, but because they agree with what you're saying. Now, let's take this to Peyton Estep real quick. There's a young man by the name of Peyton Estep, and he was in a group that was protesting Mr. Dan Redinger's sign. Protesting it, and you can see a video of it all down there of the young man. He's in a group of a handful of people. It looks like a handful of people is out there protesting that sign, right? And at the same exact time, Dan Redinger, his business is booming, which would lead you to believe by numbers alone that the people in that particular area absolutely agree with Dan Redinger. Right? So it's funny that you're protesting. You're obviously in extreme minority. And Peyton Estep, what he says, being the social justice warrior that he is, he says, I don't want everybody to feel like when they come off the highway that Lonsdale is as crass as Dan Redinger and his Treats Restaurant. I don't want them to all think that Lonsdale approves of this sign, is what Peyton Estep said clearly on the video. And meanwhile, Lonsdale completely agrees with Dan Redinger. Alright, so you're making a damn fool out of yourself, and Peyton Estep is so delusional that he can't figure out that he's making a damn fool out of himself. Okay, so I brought up these two videos because they go together. These two videos and articles, these two situations, they come together in that you got small town, simple folks. And like I said, those are my type of folks. Alright, and deep down in the heart of them, they honestly really do believe, whether they admit it or not, they do believe in segregation. They absolutely do. And I've made videos towards it before. I don't know what's y'all's opinion on it, but I love the idea. I love the idea of segregation. I think they're onto something. That's why they're my people. Right? Segregation, in my eyes, is key. That's why I brought these two videos together. Because that's what these people from Texas and these people from Minnesota have in common with each other. That deep down in their heart, they do want to separate. They want to be separatists. And I like that. That's the stuff I do like. Now you might be jumping to all sort of conclusions. I'm not talking about skin color. I'm not talking about gender and race and all that, and discrimination on people who are handicapped or anything like that. What I'm saying is this. Segregation on, hey, this is God. This is our God, all right? And in this community, we're going to believe in this God, and if you don't believe in this God, you can get up out of this community. We don't want you here. We really don't want you here. And the thing is, this would be perfect. In fact, this is how the United States was created. When you consider the colonies, basically that's what happened. Why do you think there was 13 colonies? Because basically, each group said, hey, this is what we think is God, this is how we're going to live, and if you don't, get up out of here. Get up out of here. That's how it was created. Right? And meanwhile, it was kind of a union in that they would do commerce with each other and live in harmony that way. Alright, everybody got along and respected each other for the most part. There's a lot of conflicts, I'm sure, but they got along with it. This is how the greatest country in the world was made. Was absolutely through segregation. And it's been drifting away from it for a long time. It needs to drift back. It absolutely needs to drift back. I don't care what your skin color looks like. I don't care what gender. What I care about is what God are you believing in. I'll tell you right now, if I had the financial opportunity and it arose to me that there was a community that was absolutely just filled to the brim only with Christian folk, people who follow Christ, real ones, not the fake ones, I would move there today. I would never look back. All right, but this is the answer right here, man. Tell me why we can't all just be in our own group and live fine and dandy and know that there's another group down there that believes in a different thing, but they need to stay down there, and we're going to stay over here. We're going to live in harmony, and there's more than enough room in America to do that. I promise you, I've seen very, very uninhabited places here in America, especially here in Texas. Right? And meanwhile, these people are getting hated on simply because they have the answer. Yeah, I know they sound very simple. Yeah, I know that y'all laugh at people who sound this way and they're small town folks and things like that, but honestly, they hold the keys to everybody's happiness, which isn't segregation, which is exactly what public school taught you not to do. It taught you that was unfair and you're being racist and you're being all sort of this and that. Right? And it set you down a dark path, set me down a dark path too. I had no idea about segregation and stuff and the wonders of segregation and stuff. They had you believe that was a nightmare scenario in your public schools. And look where we're at now. It's a dang tribulation. We're balls deep up in it. Alright, we're going to have to wrap our heads around some pretty tough truths. But we're living in some pretty tough times. I think it's very appropriate. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Alright, you guys, I want to touch on this real quick. Now this is sort of breaking news. I feel like we're getting the jump on this one, actually. And credit goes out to actually Get the Point channel on YouTube. I want to point you out to Get the Point channel on YouTube. This guy right here, he's got less subscribers than me. He's got like 28 currently. And the thing is, man, I feel like, he does a good enough job. He doesn't do bad work. Get the Point channel on YouTube. Check him out if you want to. He directed my attention to something that's taking place that I haven't heard anyone else talk about yet. I haven't seen anyone talk about this yet on mainstream media or alternative media at all. But I feel like this is the kind of story that is going to make a splash. It's going to make news in the days to come in a big way. Alright? And of course I'll let, links to the original video that I got this from. Alright? But apparently just yesterday it was published about a man by the name of Terrence Crutcher about a Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is a historically very racially segregated place. This guy, he got shot, and he's a black man, and apparently he didn't have no weapon, and it was in the middle of the road. He didn't really see, you're going to see a video, obviously, of the shooting taking place, and your first instinct and my first instinct would be, well, this guy did not deserve to get shot dead down on the road at all. Alright? And so obviously this is one of those cases where, man, Black Lives Matter is going to get all over this because it was just white shooters. It was just white police officers shot him. Alright? So, Black Lives Matter is going to sink their teeth up in this mug. Alright? And I gotta admit, alright, when you see the video, just like I saw the video, you're going to lead towards this that it's incriminating. It does look like people shooting an innocent unarmed man. That's what it looks like. Now, but the thing here is what I want to mention is I don't know exactly what happened. To me, on first impressions, it does look like the police shooting to death an innocent man in the middle of the road. It does look like that. But if I learned anything from all these publicly televised shootings by the police, if I learned anything about them, is that you honestly, if you're trying to get down to the truth, you have to understand the whole entire context of what took place. There's probably things that took place outside of the small video that we're seeing. I'm not saying that I think that these police are automatically innocent from the jump. But there is context. There is context here, and we're going to have to review all the context. And guess what? Black Lives Matter, regardless, they're not going to review no context. All right? And so I can imagine, what I'm going to imagine is that Tulsa, Oklahoma is going to see some riots, or the surrounding area is going to see some sort of riots. It's going to be called protest, but nah, it's going to be riots pretty soon. That's what I'm guessing. And right now we're getting the jump on it because I don't hear nobody really talking about it yet. But this is one of those things that you got to understand. Black Lives Matter is going to sink their teeth into it, baby. There's no way they're going to pass this up. Alright, this perfectly suits their agenda. And this was irregardless of whether the man was innocent or not. Alright? So it's going to blow up real big. Real big, so get ready for this. Just want to point you out to it before it happens. And then you'd be like, dang, man, he knows how to get the news. He knows how to get it real quick. That's right, I do. And I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm here for. You know, we got to move on to this. Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton. Alright. As far as Hillary goes, one Hillary Rotten Clinton. Yeah, I know we talk about her. We talk about her too much. I don't even like talking about her so much. But here's what I want to bring about Hillary Clinton. I mean, we've seen a sequence of events. The horrible coughing fits. Passing out and being dragged into a van. We saw her when those New York City bombings went off, and she looked doped up out of her mind. Alright? Everybody's already had questions about Hillary's health. Alright? So, you're running for president. Last thing you're going to want to be seen is doped up out of your mind on an airplane and stuff, talking about serious current events, which is what she did. And so the saga carries on. It gets weirder and weirder as time goes on, right? Alright? So, that's what's taking place. Now, there's going to be all sort of twists and turns up in this plot, right? Who knows where exactly it's going, but if we are to simplify matters, it's going to get very confusing, very elaborate, but if we're going to simplify matters, this is how we keep it simple, alright? Hillary Clinton, either one of two ways. There's no third way about it. There is no third way about it. Either Hillary Clinton, number one, has serious health issues and she's bombed out of her mind on dope, and saying anything that she thinks will get her some credibility. Either that is the case, or number two, which is even kind of worse, she's faking it. She's faking all of it. Believe it or not, I mean, that is a possibility that she is faking it. I mean, lots of stuff's going on that really should have never went on, and if you had any sort of sense, you wouldn't let it happen. If you were trying to really run for president of the United States, you wouldn't let it happen, alright? You wouldn't be looking bombed out of your brains, you know what I'm saying, in front of, like, all these reporters and stuff. Right? So, either one of those two things are happening. There is no third way about it. There is no way that she appears to anybody like she is in good health. She absolutely isn't. Or at least she's actually trying to make it look like she isn't. Now, here's what's important to remember, and I know if I mention this, I just want to hammer it home. Sick or not, this lady deserves judgment. God is waiting for us to give her judgment, alright? He's waiting on us patiently. She deserves judgment regardless. Now, of course, you're going to have people trying to get her out of judgment just because, oh, she's a sick old lady. See, either she's sick or she's faking sick. She's trying to get out of her judgment with the excuse of, oh, I'm a sick old lady. And the media is going to be behind it. All sorts of people are going to say, just leave her alone. She's a sick old dying old lady. You can't see that. And just leave her alone already. It's basically going to be touted amongst who still calls themselves Hillary supporters. Right? It's very imperative that we do not leave this alone. Alright? We will incur such a wrath that, I'm telling you, I'm not going to enjoy it. Alright? If we let Hillary off the hook, she must get the full extent of the law. She's not trying to do that. Right? But what I have to express to you, if you haven't figured it out already, is this. Can't no single old lady, get away with this. You can't. There's nobody in America quite get away with all of this, no matter how old and sick of an old lady they are. You're not going to get away with all these crimes unless your name is Hillary Clinton. And what I got to express is this. She would have been prosecuted a long, long time ago because it's so obvious. If it weren't for the fact that Hillary Clinton has names to name, all sort of names. You can imagine, and I would imagine 70 to 80 to maybe 90% of Washington, D.C. is under the thumb of Hillary Clinton simply because she can implicate them in all sort of things, and she would be right because we're talking about a bunch of goddamn perverts. We're talking about the lowest of the low. She's got dirt on all of them, basically. She's the Charlie Sheen of the dang White House. She's already let them know, hey, guess what, I'm going down. You're going down right there with me. Alright, I got too many names to name. Alright. Meanwhile, it does seem like it's very possible that the people in charge of Hillary's health are seeing to it that she dies pretty quickly, that she's going to die soon. That's what it seems like, and that's only a possibility, but that's kind of what it seems like. Meanwhile, she ain't going to get prosecuted, not at all. And like I said, it's because of the people she could bring down with her. And so when we talk about the fact that Hillary Clinton is obviously a criminal and she does need to be prosecuted thoroughly, and when we do that, I'm pretty sure she's going to come up guilty. When we say that, what we're actually implying is that all sort of people around her are in fact vicious, heinous criminals.